User questions. We got a bunch of them, and they're really good today. So we're going to spend the rest of the time answering them. So you go first.
Dro the Gooner, if you were Raul and it's day one.
Becca's a Niners fan.
Yeah.
She's all mine now. You don't get her anymore.
I just text my really good friend who is a Chelsea supporter, like, hey, sorry, left ? He just wrote back, what a fucking day. So anyway, if you were Raul and it's day one of the transfer market, what's your move, Mike?
Well, my first thing is I released a YouTube video with me and Vinay Venkataraman saying a bunch of bullshit that means absolutely nothing until we actually see some action. That's what I did. I mean, it is currently like day 7 of the transfer market, isn't it? Or does it truly start on June 1st? I don't know, but I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I know you might be asking for players and what do you do, but I mean, if it's day 1 and you're just deciding what your move is at this point, then I think we're behind the 8 ball already. And I fear that may be what's happening, even though the news I'm hearing is that we've got our targets all lined up and just waiting to see whether that Champions League money's coming in. And, all that Champions League money seems to be going to Bob money right now. So we have to adjust our strategy. Do you have an idea of what he should be doing?
I agree with you. I think they know what they need to do. I think day 1 of the transfer window obviously came way before Baku, so we were just waiting to see, where the money fell. To the point of the 40 million, Mike, a guy that you dislike had brought up a good point. When you can leak to the media, you only have 40 million and you're going out and bidding on players, it doesn't allow them to increase the value, right? You never hear how much City has or United have. So if Arsenal were to come out and go, we have 90 million, why would they do that? It doesn't make sense, because then you go to Valencia and go, hey, we want this player. They go, well, we know you have 90 million. So that 20 million is now 30, right? So the numbers aside, it's silly, but they should know what they're doing.
I don't like. I love just about everybody.
They should know what they're doing and who they're going after, and I'm sure a couple of them have taken a 1 or 2 day holiday, but they're grinding already, Mike. They're grinding.
Yeah, Archie, United have 200 million for Ole, and they're saying that they spent half of that on Pogba. They're looking at who is it? They're trying to win the race to pay Rabiot £280,000 a week. Just because they have money doesn't mean they're going to spend it wisely. I think we've seen that.
Yeah.
Again, if we had 250 million to spend, I wouldn't be saying it at the beginning of the transfer window so that everybody can, double the price of their players when you're going to buy them. Now, everyone doubles the price of the players for United, and United pays it, and they're still 6th. So, I don't know that that's necessary. I agree with what Andy just said, and whoever it was that I don't like said.
He's also named Andy. Archie.
Okay. Yeah, I don't like him.
The concerning part with being linked with a right back when we need a center back is we are losing Lich, and I think that it would be kind of awesome to see Bellerin as a right back and move Ainsley into either that defensive midfield role or a right wing role and have that speed down the right. I think that would be tasty. So let's see what happens, but at the end of the day, we need a center back, like you said. So let's see.
Let's get on to this certain issue here from Roger Kendrick. How do we sell Mesut Ozil, and what will it take to pay him off? Could he go full time on Fortnite and still earn the same wages? According to my son, there are people that make millions of dollars. I guess what's the guy's name? Ninja. I mean, some of these people make ridiculous money, not 350,000 quid a week, but that was the weakest bell ring I've ever done. It was like, so anyway, how do we sell them? Do you want to sell them? How do we sell them? Let's talk about this for the 9th consecutive week.
I think we just need to. I think we just need to buy him out. I think we need to buy him out.
Can we buy him out for anything other than 100%? Will he accept that? Does he need to play to the point where if we say you can go find somewhere else to play, we're gonna give you $100,000 a week, They can take care of the rest. He doesn't get the offer he wants, so he just says, no, I'll just keep taking $350 a week, and you can play me as much as you want. I'll just send shit through the social media to make you look bad. I mean, that cannot continue. But if you're Ozil and Ozil's camp, since he is, as you say, a brand, I mean, I think it's just it's not even just about what are we willing to pay. It's about how can we finally just make him like agree to leave.
Well,
hey, Bob, you want him? Pete, you want him?
I blocked those fuckers. I was getting sick of that shit.
Oh. I don't even know how to do that.
Oh yeah, those motherfuckers won't be coming back to this channel unless they'll probably just create new usernames. I don't know. Maybe we sell him to PSG. Maybe China come in. I don't know, Mike. I mean, I think the only way we do it is if we buy out his contract or we send him off to another country and we pay for some of that and we take $250 off of the wage bill, but we're still paying $100. Ozil's, I mean, for the most part, he is a professional. And I think if Unai sits down with him and says, hey, at the end of the day, you're not in my plans, I think he goes. I think he walks.
I don't know. I kind of have my doubts. Like I can see him in the it's almost like a reverse holdout, like in the NFL here, where you got people holding out and not playing because they don't have a bigger contract. They don't get paid when they're not playing, but they hurt their team. With him, I could just see him going on strike and getting paid and not playing. It's just, I think it's going to be impossible to get rid of him, and that, frankly, is one of the bigger things that I think holds us back from just moving to the next stage of personnel.
I do still think that maybe we move him to the Colorado Rapids and have them buy out the contract. I mean, City would do it. We should do it too.
Yeah, and I was wrong. They've done it with a number of players, just not on that scale. But Jack, what's his name, Harrison, a couple others, Frank Lampard. Yeah, that's what we need to do. So maybe we'll see him playing for the Rapids this summer instead of for Arsenal.
Sebi asks, okay, what do we do now since we don't have Champions League money and we supposedly only have £40 million for next season? On a scale of 1 to 10, how worried are you about our ability to strengthen the squad? Who would you sell? Cough, Ozil. Since we've already kind of discussed that, Mike, on a scale of 1 to 10, how worried are you about the ability to strengthen this squad?
If 10 is most worried about our ability to strengthen the squad, then 3. If 10 is about how worried I am that we will actually do everything that we can do to strengthen the squad, 9. Because, I'm not convinced yet that we have a ruthless personnel streak, and there's so much turnover that needs to happen this summer, and I just don't see us moving that strongly. But as for who I would sell, if we could get any kind of a reasonable offer from them, I would move on Ozil. I would move on Mkhitaryan. I would move on Mustafi, Koscielny, Elneny, Jenkinson, Ospina. I'd move on Takuma Asano, and I'm not even kidding. He's still under contract with us for another year. And there are a couple players who I would like to hold on to, but if someone, because they're have promise or potential. Again, we talked about buying well and selling well. If someone gave us like above market offer, like every other team gets for their up and coming players, depending on the offer, I would consider saying goodbye to Chambers. I consider saying goodbye to Iwobi, Xhaka, Mavropanos.
So you're just going to sell the whole fucking team?
And Kolasinac. Well, I'm saying some people I would like to get rid of just about regardless of the cost. Others I would get rid of if someone gave us a deal that was too good to refuse. Then there are others. Lacazette is one of them, who's supposedly in Barcelona today. But Lacazette is one that, the offer could be 80 million and I still would not want to sell him. So, I'm not saying sell everybody to regard, if the price is met, but I would say there's probably 12 to 13 people on this club that I would sell if the price was good enough.
I agree with Joe Millwad, who says 60% of the team need to go. At the end of the day, you can't just rid 60%. You need to do it in pieces. The Lacazette and Barcelona thing, I just don't get how they're going to be able to do that unless there are a group of players coming our way. Now, if they came to us and said, hey, you can have Dembele and Umtiti, and we'll take Lacazette, I would do that in a heartbeat. But Lacazette's young. and Aubameyang is on the other side at 30. And
maybe we could get Dennis Suarez.
yeah,
He's good.
Yeah. I wish we could have seen Suarez play for us last year a little bit more than he did. But at the end of the day, Mike, I'm on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm a little worried. I think I'm a 2 or a 3. I think Chambers and Bilic in this current market with the English price tag would probably fetch us 30 to 40 million. So I'm wondering if we maybe give them a shot. What makes me worry even more is Nketiah and Willock.
Bielik?
Yeah, Nketiah and Willock could have both probably gone out on loan and been given more of an opportunity if we had more depth. So I wouldn't necessarily get rid of players like El Neni right now. I think that he is comfortable on a lower wage, kind of being a backup player. So there are certain players I think we should move quicker than others, just so we're doing it right. I don't think just removing half the squad right off the bat, but it's troublesome. It's totally troublesome.
I mean, I would be comfortable, like if El Neni, just from being a solid plug-in, nothing flashy, and by solid I don't mean that he's a guy that plays at the 6 for a top 4 team. And if that's what we want to be, then he's not good enough. But he's a squad player on low wages, but so too would be Bielik, so too would be Chambers. And they're guys that we have already. So, I mean, if you can't play El Neni, Chambers, Bielik, and Torreira and Xhaka and Guendouzi, all in midfield, even with 2 games a week. So in that situation, it's kind of a lot of average to above average options, but nothing great other than maybe Torreira. So, I'd be perfectly happy to get rid of El Neni if he had market value. Frankly, some of the younger guys may have more market value because they have more potential upside than El Neni. So, we'll see. But
we're just in that weird lux of, do we try an Ajax where we invest in limited transfer market and put the youth in there and see what they can do?
Yeah, I mean, when I say Obi, I'm not saying I wouldn't, that I don't rate him, but I mean, if a mid-table club or an Everton or somebody's going to come along and give us 45 million for him, like a Richarlison or a Balassi type of sale price that we've seen over the last couple of years, you have to give that some serious thought and try to reinvest it because there's only so many years you can have that guy.
Matt Walker says Emery's not going to win with Wenger's players. He needs his team. I've been saying that forever. I completely agree with that. That's so true.
And if we turned over the team like I would like to see happen this year, frankly, that would buy me another year with Emery. I'd hate to keep resetting the clock and saying, okay, well, this year is the transition year. No, this year is the transition year. I said that about this year, but if we actually turn over the team hugely. Again, I don't want to backslide, but I would look at next year as an opportunity to see if he can instill his mentality on the club, and you'll see that one way or the other. I said I would judge the team on how they played, not how they finished. And early in the year, I was very impressed with what I saw. Towards the end of the year, I wasn't, and that's an alarming trend.
Yeah.
From Tez in Australia, huge Sydney FC supporter, but apparently also an Arsenal guy.
Let's go Brisbane Roar.
What did you say?
I said, let's go Brisbane Roar.
Oh, yeah. Haven't asked a question for a while as I'm hardly on Twitter. Where does this current Arsenal squad sit amongst others in the last 10 years, Andy?
It's a good question. It's a tough one because, we won cups with Denilson, Bentner. We made deep Champions League runs with those players in. I think it sits exactly where it sits, 5th place. If you look at,
I think you're saying compared to our clubs.
Yeah, no, I think it sits where it is, 5th place. It's hard to compare year after year. I mean, because this isn't Emery's team, so until he gets his squad, you can't really. This is still Arsenal's team. He had this team built around a specific style, and we never saw that style this season. So it's really hard to answer that. I mean, what do you think?
I think talent-wise, the level of talent that we have on our club has gotten better with each consecutive year, with the possible exception of maybe 2 seasons ago when we had peak Alexis playing. it is definitely the most underachievingest team in the last 10 years, unless you look at that squad, the first one where, we finally missed out on the top four. We had Alexis, we had Chambo, we had Vic Akers still at that point. It was just, other than that, I mean, you've seen, and these are usually League Cup early round matchups, but you see every once in a while a tweet with the starting 11 that we put out on the pitch like 7-8 years ago. And the names you see on there, Giroud, not Giroud, but Joru, Johan Giroud, Ignel Makasi or Miguel Ignacio. What I say, Ignel Makasi, Gervinho and Chamak and all those guys. And we won things with those guys. We got fourth place and we won FA Cups. And it's just, so, and you could take that information and say, well, what's the difference? Who was coaching them then versus who's coaching them now? But I'm not going to chalk it up to that. I just think we've got underachieving, mentality-ridden, devoid people right now in the club, and so it's underachieving.
You don't just look at our club either. I mean, you got to look at what's happening around as well. The investment from Liverpool. I mean, Klopp took 8th his first year at Liverpool, and look at the investment. And I think I briefly did a quick scan, Mike. Out of the team that Klopp took over, there's only 8 remaining players from that 26-man squad from the first day he took over to now. 8 remaining players. And out of that 8, only really 4 of them start week in and week out. And that's Jordan Henderson. It was for Firmino and I think Joe Gomez. And then there was one other player in there. So he had time and the ability to completely revamp that team. We have to have patience. That's the biggest thing here is you have to have patience. So it's hard to rank this team, but look at this summer, Mike. Chelsea are fucked. They can't buy anyone. They're about to lose their manager. They're probably going to bring in Lampard. So you look at them and you're like, okay, you finished third. Yeah, they finished third. So remove them. United are a clusterfuck. So there are other things that are outside of our control that might help us in favor, but all stems back to getting this team to be Emery's team.
Yeah, if we just stay status quo and tread water, and this team is still 80% of the same personnel next season as it was this season, then all these other teams that we keep thinking are going to drop because of their inconsistencies and their, loss of Hazard and Sarri and all that, we're just going to be dropping along with them. We're just going to be treading water while they keep reloading. It's going to be a repeat of this season.
Dude, I'll tell you this for nothing, man. If tomorrow morning I woke up and there was a Twitter feed news of Arsenal signed Gary Cahill for £0 in the transfer window, and what's the central midfielder from PSG's name? Rabideau or Rabiot. We get those 2 players. There are worse players out there than Gary Cahill. We'd pay a lot more money for, and I think
but we'll give them like $200,000 a week because that's all of our last free transfers. Lichtsteiner, Kolasinac. I mean, we gave them contracts that were just silly.
At the end of the day, though, Mike, he is a player that would improve our defense to what it is today, and we get him for free. So I'm talking if we truly only have $40 million, there's 2 players right there, and we're freeing up a wage bill. I think the big thing is you would say to a player like Gary Cahill, hey, you're going to come in with a higher appearance fee. I think the central midfielder from PSG, there could be some legs to that rumor because he knows Emery and Emery knows him. Now, whether or not he actually comes, but there are ways we could add to this squad and improve the squad without spending much money.
Yeah.
And Archie, I get Cahill, no thanks. We already have a finished Koscielny. But think about
I kind of agree with him on that, actually.
But think about the rotation. Koscielny might leave the club this summer, and we just need leadership. We don't have leadership. Cahill wore that captain's armband for a really long time. So we just need someone yeah, great question from Joe. Rather play Mustafi than Cahill?
I don't think that was a question. I think that was the statement.
Yeah, but that's my question to you. Who do you rather play? If you have to pick the last defender and you've got 2, Mustafi and Cahill,
I'd rather just leave. I'd just rather play 2.
Mustafi, don't you do it? Hey, speaking of English, look, my women's England kit showed up.
What did you say, your women's England kit?
Yeah, this is specific to the women for this World Cup.
It looks fantastic on your tits.
Thank you.
By the way, Grant asked if the letters on my 3rd kit from last year came off, and Yeah, they did, and they this particular kit they all come off. A few of them came off, and then I just basically pulled the rest of them off because I think it looks better just like this than half-ass peeling bullshit. So, but yeah, it's not going to be good unless we. I mean, I'm still a fan of Nathan Aki. That's who I would like to see us go after. And there was a bit of discussion in the chat. Just raid the English clubs, raid Bournemouth, raid Burnley, raid everybody. Just I would be fine if we only bought players in the Premier League this season from mid-table clubs and brought them to our club for next season and let them bloom. I would be fine with that. So, but we've talked about that before. So, next question is
Joe Zalek. I still rock my BFG Nike kit. What player should I get on a new kit, or should I wait until? Should I wait it out on my player kit? What?
Should he get a new kit with a player's name, or should he wait it out before getting a player on it?
Oh, okay. And then should I be?
This is one of Sebi's boys. So if you can't, if you don't know what he means, that's why.
Yeah, fucking speak English, Joe. Also, should I be a jerk and wear a New York City FC kit to meet you guys in DC this summer?
Yeah, I don't know. Should I be a jerk when you show up in that kit and I go in for a big hug and accidentally elbow you in the jaw, and then Sebi gets to clean up the blood? So, no. Yeah, don't wear the NYC FC kit. I think that's doubly douchey if you do that. And I know you were just kidding, but as for players on shirts, I'm currently in May mode, which means I'm swearing never to get another name on the back of my shirt again. But what it also means is in 2 months I'll be back in July mode, which means I'm running out and ordering online a shirt with the name of our big summer signing on it, like some chump. So be prepared for my new Adidas Bramble shirt and my Cahill shirt. So yeah, I would advise you not to get a player in the back because he's just going to turn out to be a pussy.
I am stopping player on the back because there's no commitment in football anymore. And I feel like every time I buy a shirt with a player on the back, they leave the club. So I brought up a question a while ago, can you get a legend on the back? And I was at the pub and a guy had last year's home kit with Henri 14 on the back. And my instant thought was, not cool, bro. So the answer to that is no.
Yeah, well, I loved it. Was it on Twitter or was it on Facebook that I saw that? And I think it was on Facebook. And a couple of us were like, it's like, that's kind of ridiculous. I don't like that. And then there's the, don't tell people what they can and can't have. I'm just like, I'm not telling someone they can't do that. I'm just telling them they can't be my friend if they do that.
Yeah, I'm just telling them I'll never look them in the eye.
From Fredo. How do you improve the amount of goals and assists coming from everyone not named Aubameyang and Lacazette, something that we here call secondary scoring? And when you answer that, he's got a backup question.
I think the style of play, so we saw it a lot on Wednesday, but the entire season has been get the balls out to the wings and cross in. We never really saw stuff come down the middle unless Ramsey was playing. And that's such a big hole to fill. So I think, Mike, for us to get other players involved, we need to bring the ball down the middle, and we just haven't done that. Even with Ozil on the pitch, we don't see it enough. So I think it's just the structure of the play, and the problem when you have two world-class strikers on the pitch is you want to get them the ball, and they're going to be putting it in the back of the net. So it's just. I don't think we're going to keep both of them this summer. I really don't. Everyone says, oh, no Champions League football. You can't attract the good players. My mind is thinking no Champions League football. How do we keep the good players? And if Lacazette Barcelona situation is true and his best friend just went there, then we pretty much fucked. Now, to ask you this question, Mike, and you can give me a quick yes or no.
Who's his best friend? Griezmann?
Yeah.
How could Griezmann be his best friend?
I don't know. They're French.
Yeah, but
how can anyone be friends with a French person? Sorry, Sebi.
I don't
Love
know. They
you.
probably named their mom, their dad, and their son Bernard or something like that. And yeah, I know.
Here's a genuine
Sebi did
question,
name
though.
his dad.
Like I jokingly said it before, but if Barcelona came in and offered 80 million for Lacazette, or said we're going to give you cash plus Dembele, do you take it?
Dembele kind of seems like,
and then people in the
like
chat,
a younger version of. I don't mean style of play, but career trajectory wise, he strikes me as somebody like Mkhitaryan, who moved to a big club, and it just, now I know injuries played into this, but it just hasn't worked out. And I don't know, some people can snap back from that. Mo Salah snapped back. De Bruyne snapped back. Di Maria, I think, snapped back to an extent, but others can't. Mkhitaryan hasn't, and Dembele isn't the player he was in that amazing year that he had at Dortmund. And I don't know that he should be everyone that we pin our hopes and dreams on, and he's nowhere near the player that Lacazette is. So, I don't think I take that. I mean, if they want to offer us Dembele for Iwobi, then I'll take it.
Yeah.
Dembele plus cash for Iwobi and Elneny. I mean, then Elneny has scored against Barcelona, so yeah. I don't know. I don't really get the whole Dembele thing. No question, he had an outstanding year at Dortmund, but also from Fredo, Andy, any planned vengeance for the Pineapple Avalanche this season?
Oh yeah.
We're gonna We're gonna get you two together for the first time. It's gonna be like when Tom Canton and Drew met, and I got to witness their tearful, loving embrace for the first time.
Do you have his home address? I somehow need to get his home address.
I'll work on it. Yeah. And now I may never. He'll double. Yeah, you shouldn't have brought that up, because he'll double down on it, and he'll give a home address that's someone else that he hates. And he'll get you and somebody else giving each other shit, and he'll just be standing there laughing at you the rest of his life.
We'll get
eating pineapples. All right,
we'll get it.
What
part of Texas do you live in? San Antonio?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go there. That place is boring.
You got Carrie's question?
No.
You don't?
Yeah, no. What are the 3 must-happen moves this summer from Carrie McCollum? Also in the chat, Mike.
Must happen. Mustafi must leave. Ozil must leave, and some twat from Milton Keynes must get more donations so he can afford to drive drunk more often. Andy, what do you think?
Or get more donations because he can't afford to pay for his season ticket.
Yeah.
3 must happen. Yeah, I think we need to get Ozil and Mkhitaryan off the wage bill. I'm going to lump that in as 1. I think that we need to invest in depth, and I think we need to give some of these youngsters loans.
Yeah, I mean, and everyone says Nketiah probably should have gone on loan and really suffered from not going on loan, but it was Danny Welbeck's injury that really pinned us back from being able to do that. So I do think these guys. Now, what do you think about the guys that had loans this season? Reece Nelson, Smith Rowe.
As much as we joke about dossier twins, Drew is a very, very intellectual individual when it comes to football. And if he's saying that Reece Nelson is not ready and that he had a very hot second, but another loan spell is what he needs. I don't follow the Bundesliga that much outside of, knowing the league table and what team's doing what. But if someone who religiously follows it is saying that that's the case, then that's the case. He's likely not ready. So give him another loan. But if we are going to allow him to sit in our squad, we need to utilize him in more than just Carabao Cup games.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Drew watched every Hoffenheim game twice this season, and so if he says Reece Nelson was getting a little too, I mean, I think people are starting to talk about him like he was 2017 Serge Gnabry or something like that, where he was just like a surefire future stud. And I think the reality of the situation is he's showing some signs of being really good, but then again, so did Jeff Van Adelaide in his first couple of years with us, and I'm not quite sure what happened to him. I'm sure Danny could tell us, but yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of decisions to make, and if we don't start either playing some of these guys on a more regular basis and just letting them blood themselves in, or putting them on loan. We're going to end up losing some of them on freeze, like some of our other youth players, like Plug Wizego and stuff, that are leaving without ever really making an impact.
So the Lacazette in Barcelona rumors, Mike, that have happened today, like people are saying they're seeing him there.
Right.
There's pictorial evidence of this happening, but he's wearing Arsenal stuff. Now, how does that make sense? Like, if you're an Arsenal player,
I'm sure it's not Ty from Arsenal.
If you're an Arsenal player who's about to go sign for another club in that city and you're wearing something Arsenal related, that doesn't make sense. Why would he do that?
Yeah. First of all, look at me. I'm here in Barcelona. Secondly, I'm repping Arsenal big time while I try to get the maximum salary out of Barcelona. Yeah. Doesn't make a tremendous amount of sense. From Alonso Spencer, I believe he asked for his name to be said in an English accent, but by you, not by me. Wow. From Alonso, if we get Ryan Fraser and are able to get rid of Ozil, which one player on the squad now, currently on the squad, would replace Ozil at the 10? Would it be Iwobi? Andy?
Oh, that's a good question.
No, I wasn't shooting it over to you. I was answering the question. I'd use Andy.
Oh, yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it. So done. All right. Tom Rosen.
No, who would you use? Do you think Iwobi's ready to be our first choice kind of playmaker?
No.
If you want to use that word?
No. I think Ramsey.
His decision making in the final third when he's been playing well is not one that gives me a lot of faith that he's going to be,
And that's exactly why, Mike. His final ball and his decision making has a lot to be desired. He's improved a lot, and
he's amazing about 40, 45 yards from goal. I mean, the number of people he gets past that you just don't think he's got a chance of getting past.
I'm going to go with
using both power and finesse. It's really incredible. But
here's my answer to the question: is nobody. And we haven't fussed about using a number 10 all season. We haven't used one. If we have one of the best in the world when he's on his game, but we haven't used it. So I don't know that we need to use it, Mike. I mean, there are certain lineups where maybe we go into a diamond formation in the middle where you have it, and Iwobi could slot in. I don't think we'll lose Ozil and Mkhitaryan in the same window, but if either of those two are there, this situation Ozil's not, so probably Mkhitaryan goes into it. But I just don't see the reason why we need to use it.
Yeah. I would personally use Dejan Iliev or Gunnersaurus to do it. But yeah, I mean, we've gone from having all these people whose natural position is in the middle to the point where we haven't been able to accommodate them. So we have central mid players playing wide. We have Ozil on the wing. We've had years where other centrally based players played out on the wing, and now all of a sudden we're about to have a huge. I mean, we're not getting rid of Ozil. Ozil's going to be here next season, so it's kind of a theoretical conversation. But if we were to, all of a sudden we'd have this big void there. Someone in the chat said Draxler, but the question was, do we have someone currently on the team? Is Smith Rowe potentially that person in the future? Yeah, but not for next season.
Smith Rowe seems to be the ideal fit with the scenario of Ozil and Mkhitaryan not being there. I just can't see how it's Iwobi. Mr. Rosenhammer asks the question, it seems like under Arsene, we like to buy defenders that played nice football first and defend second. Do you think on the Emery we can expect more traditionally oriented defenders? I think the answer to that is yes. Mike?
Matt says Andy's natural position is in the middle too. In the middle of two big fat men. I sure fucking hope so. I mean, we've had our time with flair defenders. You clearly don't win the Premier League that way anymore. Maybe years ago, but I mean, even when we were storming through the Premier League and winning, however many, in 5 years, I think we won 3 to 4 times. I mean, I'm just not even thinking about it right now, but I mean, the back four that we had, the players that we had at that time. And you need bastards, you need dicks. Like I've said, I mean, Sergio Ramos, Godin, Van Dijk, Company, when he wasn't in the hospital. I mean, these guys couldn't care less about dancing and sticking their ass out like Mustafi and juggling and doing fancy footwork and close control and shit. All they care about is that you are not fucking getting past them. You're not getting around them. And so, yeah, I mean, I hope we worry less about the footwork with the ball and worry a little bit more about their footwork and their, their mental work without the ball.
I remember Ian Wright was saying how there were certain defenders that would put a knee in your ass or your lower back if you got close to them early in the game to dictate the pace, just to let you know, like, hey, come close to me. We have a situation. And Wrighty said it would throw him off his game. Like, you would have to change the way you dictated play around that player because you knew they were going to hit you. And that's what we want. And that's what we need. And that is that traditional center back. So, yeah, as Joe said, nasty bastards is what we need.
Yeah, and we need leaders back there. I mean, we need whether Koscielny was not this person. Socrates could possibly be this person, but I'm just not sure that he's got that presence. But I go back to what Lee Dixon said in when I was in that the Arsenal Trust meeting that got taken way out of context. It was turned into a slam on Arsene Wenger, but he said Ashley Cole didn't become Ashley Cole because of Arsene Wenger and his coaching. He said he became the best left back in the world because of Tony Adams. And God damn it, Tony Adams isn't walking through that door anytime soon. But we need someone with a little Tony Adams in him. Hopefully, just from a mental standpoint, not physically, but yeah, I mean, it's I don't know who that person is going to be, but we have to find him because we don't have anybody even remotely like that on the club.
No, we don't.
From Gooner Dub, a.k.a. Johan, the man you love to call Johan, even though his name's John.
Johan?
Why do people think next year Emery will change his attitude and trust youngsters? We've just talked about a bunch of them. For me this year, Willock Nketiah lost a year of development. You pretty much said that. Saka wasn't even allowed near a bench past January. But a lot of people are thinking we go with a really young club next year. I guess that's kind of the fallback position if we aren't really spending any money on transfers.
Yeah, I think he changes his attitude because he has to. He has to trust some of the youngsters. I think we saw the brief time of Willock. He's been impressive. I keep hearing a lot about soccer from the people who really follow the under-23s that he is kind of the real deal. So that's pretty exciting. And Nketiah, I just don't see. He lost a year of development, but he needs to be loaned out to a smaller club. I don't think he's going to be the goal-scoring machine everyone thinks. But I think we're going to have to change. He's going to have to change his attitude because he doesn't have a choice. For us to have depth, we need to have these youngsters step up.
Yeah. Did you see our nice comment from Trigger Happy J? Do you want to read that?
How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? Trigger Happy J has taken
going.
Oh, sorry. How art thou cut down to the ground while dis the weaken the nations? He had one of these earlier. I think Trigger Happy J has put some ganja in a pipe and smoked it. Good for you, brother. It's Friday.
I think he's just called us both the devil, and that's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to us, actually.
It really is.
Oh, boy.
Turn your fucking phone off, Mike. Shit.
Your phone went off earlier.
My phone's not even in the same room as me.
Your mom's in the same room as me. All right, we got two more questions. Oh my God, there's an even better one out now.
And Andrew the Hinkley Gooner. Both Emery and Cech have both spoken of the lack of pressure to succeed within the club. I think this is a massive problem for our club culture and has been our downfall. What do you think needs to be done to correct this and forge cultural change? And who's responsible for it? This is a good fucking question.
It is great. Andrew's been stepping up lately with outstanding participation, by the way. It's 100% Emery's job, or whoever the manager ends up being, to make that happen. And frankly, it might be something that he ends up having to fall on the sword to change. And that's the reason you may never see it, because it doesn't do anybody any good to change the mentality for the next person. But, if there's a lack of ambition in our backroom decision-making on transfers and contracts and coaches, then the coach has to speak out about it. demand support from his hierarchy, and also from below him, from the players that he has. And we never saw this from Arsene Wenger, ever. We're really only now this summer, with the end of the season, reaching the first crossroads under Emery, where we'll see if he has this in him as well. And frankly, I tend to doubt it. The one other person who needs to massively weigh in on this and be the source of changing the culture is the person I know you're going to say, and that's Josh Kroenke.
No, I wouldn't have said that.
Really?
No.
Because I mean, there's the board, there's the ownership, there's leadership and players, and there's the manager, and then there's the kit man, and those are really the only people that could possibly be part of it. So, I mean, I think it falls on Emery completely to demand that from both above and below him. Talking about being in the middle of things.
Yeah, and as I said before, like the pressure Emery was talking about at PSG and the pressure here is completely different because they have one goal in mind. They already know they're going to walk the league, so they want their focus on Champions League. I think Czech was talking more about the reign under Arsene, and unfortunately, we have a lot of players that are young who are molded under that type of hey, we don't need to succeed. There's no pressure. I mean, look at Iwobi. He's 22. His first team debut was, 17 or 18? So for 4 or 5 years under Arsene, he was coddled. And I don't care how old you are. If you're a professional football player, you should be getting shit every week, and you should be challenged every week to be better. So it falls solely on Emery. Emery's first thing, how to correct it, and we were having this chat earlier, captain. He needs to elect 2 or 3 members of this team that are going to, we've said it in the past, put their teammates on check when they fuck up, and allow the team to hold each other accountable.
Was it a mistake for him to name 5 people this season? I mean, he really stuck with that for the whole season, too. He pretty much rotated until Koscielny came back.
Yeah, I don't think so, Mike. I think it's his first year in. You're not really sure who the leaders of the team are going to be. I think, for example, like an Ozil isn't going to be a screaming type of player. He'll be more of a Burkamp. Let me show you in training how it's done and all that. It's probably a terrible example, but I don't think he knew. I think he now knows who can be that leader going in. I mean, dude, look at the fucking passion that we saw from number 11 in the last 72 hours of this life. The fucking breakdown on the pitch to the message that he sent out today, so I think that's going to be it. It's a huge culture shift, but honestly, as I said before, Edu coming in is going to be a big proponent of that. He's going to be driving that quite a bit because he's essentially going to be Unai's boss.
Yeah. Interesting from Grant. I'm going to throw this in here before we get to the final question. Do you think there's some connection or correlation? And he says this is legit, he's not kidding, between the club's weak mentality in crunch time and the fact that the club has ostensibly French DNA throughout. I'm going to, Grant, send that on Twitter to @SEBBYV21 and see what answer you get from our boy Sevi there. But I'm not getting into to attacking the French here. They don't need me to do that. They get that plenty on their own. But what do you think, Andy?
About the French? Oh, yeah.
You don't pull punches when it comes to that.
No. Jokes aside, Mike, there's a big culture issue at stake. But here's the thing, right? So if Emery comes in his first year and the first couple sessions and training, do you want to have a manager who throws players under the bus like Jose? Or do you want to have a manager like Pep Guardiola where he's the player manager, they see him, they respect him, they love him, all the people surrounding him are the rabid dogs who are causing the players to get bitten and create that untenable culture where people are like, hold on a second, I'm not used to this. You got to remember, you're dealing with teenagers who have been coddled for 4 or 5 years. You just can't come in overnight and change it. I think the fact that Emery coming out in the press conference and saying that there is a cultural issue is huge. He's acknowledging that. Now it's how he deals with it, how he changes it. And I think that he has to be careful. You just can't come in and throw a player like Ozil under the bus right away. And then when he did, everyone got fucking furious. Oh, this manager's an asshole, blah, blah, blah. Well, he can't fucking win. He literally cannot win.
Yeah. Yep. So we got our last question of the season.
The last question of the season.
I gave this last question honor to this gentleman for a reason.
He signed off hours ago when we were swearing.
No, it's yeah, exactly. It's from Mike Hernandez. I'm gonna go ahead and give Mike the unofficial User of the Year award because dude is always in the chat. If he's not gonna be in the chat, he actually sends me a text letting me know that he's sorry, but he'll listen to it on the way to work tomorrow, which is what he did today. Great guy to talk to. We met him in New Orleans. I met him in New Orleans. I'm actually going to give his wife the award because she puts up with him and with us in their home every week. So anyway, his question. Hey, 312. I must have missed it somewhere. Then send it back to me again. I will read it. Do you guys believe that the board disclosed the transfer / contract issues and potential limitations to Unai prior to him accepting the job?
I think, yeah. I think that he probably, I mean, if he really went through and did a dossier of each player, he probably understood the contract the contracts they were on, and then he understands how financial fair play works. So my guess is that he was given a lot of this information. I think he was probably told, like, hey, we are going to look for you to rebuild on limited funds. Can you do that? I think Arteta was probably the number one choice up until Unai threw his hat in the ring. And the reason why Arteta would have been good was because he would have understood that as well. He's young, so he would have probably thought to himself, hey, I'm going to use my experience and exposure to show that this can be done. And then Unai swoops in. You have a guy who's won 3 Europa Leagues. You have a guy who actively left PSG to come to us. So, yeah, I think he knew all of the information, Mike. He's a smart guy, and I don't think anything would have been brushed under the rug with him. I think he would have known immediately what he got himself into. And why would the board lie? It's a small world in certain businesses, and if Unai was lied to, came to Arsenal, and sold a bill of goods that weren't there, he would reach out to the next manager and be like, don't do it. So there's no point to lie. There just isn't. And I think the Kroenkes were probably honest with him too. You know, here's what you're going to get. Deal with it.
Yeah, I think he was probably told, this isn't PSG. This isn't, this is going to be more like your Sevilla job, which, people will be pained to hear that. But, Sevilla or Valencia or both. I always forget. I always get them mixed up. But feeder league team. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. So, yeah, I mean, I think they were told he was told that. I think that has a lot to do with why they chose him, because I think he was willing to work within those constraints. That being said, at some point he's going to be under pressure to win, and he's going to need to speak up for himself and get the support that he needs. That's about it on questions.